Good day. I'm Coach Anton from Coach Anton P2R Limited. If you are joining us for the first time today, welcome here. And if you are not, either way, I would say thank you for you guys coming to watch this video and or presentation as well, and follow us, keep and continue to support us. Remember, in event of you being interested in our professional services, please get in touch with us on any of the details that you see below. And remember that we offer professional customized solutions for individuals and clubs out there as well. All right, now, in this presentation today, we'll be focusing on sports mental coaching in professional sports. It is part of a series that we're currently busy with as well. And the specific topic that we're dealing with here is obviously related to where we are at the moment, which is the vicious cycle of frustration. But before I go there, in this series, let me just elaborate on that for a moment. We basically focus on how to use and benefit from sports mental coaching. And we take a deeper look at it as well. All right, so if we go look at the topics that we've got covered in this series, we've got sports mental coaching for individual player management, sports mental coaching for team management, sports mental coaching in youth development, and sports mental coaching for the technical team. That's like coaching the coach. And if we go look at some of our previous videos, all 4 of these has already been done. So feel free to go and have a look at them and subscribe to our channel so you actually know as we load all the broken down videos as well. Each of these topics, all of their points will still be broken down into shorter video clips as well. So hope you will enjoy that as well. Now, in the vicious cycle of frustration and how to solve it, we are breaking this into 2 videos. And the first of those we are doing today, which is part 1, which basically explains and elaborates on the actual vicious cycle of frustration was causing it. One day after, I will be elaborating on how to solve it or rather to prevent it. So if you go look at the vicious cycle of frustration, part 1, here is the actual thing. Let me explain in the graph. You've got an incident happening out there that then triggers an emotion. An emotion runs to a reaction. Reaction goes towards a decreased concentration, and that in return leads to another incident, which again continues the actual cycle. Now, why is this dangerous? Well, as explained in one of my previous blogs as well that I've written on my blogspot, you can go have a look at that link if you want to. In a match, an incident may occur that triggers an emotion. And then that is leading to a reaction of frustration. Now, the frustration that it leads to, in turn, can decrease your concentration, and that leads to an increase in errors, which is another incident, and continues the cycle even more and more. I'm going to elaborate with some examples. Let's look at a player reacting towards a referee. And many of your famous players out there had cycles like this. You can actually go and see. I love looking at real matches because there's almost not one game that you will watch not having at least one or more people going through this cycle that is very evident once you know it. So basically, a referee could be making a bad call or a close call, and the player perceives it as incorrect. That then is an incident that then triggers an emotion, right? And that emotion is linked to frustration, of course. And that then will lead to, together with the emotion, also being anger and more emotions in it, and that has a reaction, right? So now the player might be reacting, shouting at the referee about this, questioning the referee's decisions, and that normally doesn't have a pretty outcome. Yet players keep doing that, right? They'll get their bookings for this, but they'll keep doing this. So that then leads to decrease in concentration. Why? Because when you get hyped up, negatively especially so, a part of your brain that actually works with rational thinking gets blocked off. So studying a bit into neuropsychology, you'll understand that you actually don't get signals coming from where you need in order to make rational decisions as much as you would normally do in this negative emotions being triggered. So that then leads to another incident, which could be a mistake, because now I've got decreased concentration. Now that makes you invulnerable for other mistakes. It could be timing, maybe in terms of timing when kicking the ball to finish off from an opportunity out there. All of a sudden, coordination is slightly out and you're wondering why. That's all linked to because the rational thinking is gone. Right. So let's say the pass is made. You make a mistake, you miss the target, another incident has occurred now. Now, after this incident occurred, you get more frustrated again. Now, mostly at yourself, but some players will want to blame external factors, right? So they'll be complaining of their friends or trying to over-justify why they just committed an error, trying to make as if there was a funny bounce when sometimes it ran as smooth as can come. And the grounds they play on is like carpets in comparison to what you find in other areas. So quite frankly, stop blaming a bounce, okay? Rather blame your reaction time, because that bounce normally might have been a goal nonetheless. And then there is the reaction that continues out there. It could be the explanation part I've just mentioned. It could be anger. It could be trying to defend themselves in anger or frustration. And that then in turn leads to a decrease in concentration again, why the emotions are blocking off the parts of the brain needed for rational thinking. Next mistake. They get the ball, have a chance to make a through pass for someone else to score. They make the through pass split seconds too late, and the player is already offside. Now, one of two things likely to happen. Say one of three things. But firstly, they might want to blame the ref because it's probably going to be a close call, okay, and difficult to see in live speed. Want to blame the ref for that, even though they're not in a position to see it as well as the linesman was. All right, so if we basically look at that, quite frankly speaking, they shouldn't complain because the linesman had the best view. And that was his job, by the way. Their job was to try and see the players, so they can't really see the offside line clearly. And secondly, the pass were late. So they might blame themselves for it, knowing that it was late. That is probably a more mature option if you got frustrated. But at least you take a responsibility, which means you can solve the problem. But if you refer to other external factors, and now you want to blame your player for running too early. Question is, did your player run too early? And what's the consequences of doing that? Here's part of the consequences. You're now going to frustrate your teammate as well. So he's going to kick very likely into the very same cycle, especially if the two of you now enter into some kind of an argument about that. And that in turn will also demotivate your teammates around you or your coach, and more of the team are actually not getting into this vicious cycle of frustration. More errors are being committed, more mistakes are being committed, more blame is being shifted, and at the end, the team might find themselves taken out of the game. And if you track this back, it all led to one goal. A player reacting to a referee's close call, thinking it was unfair. Now, mind me for painting this picture. Sounds a bit out there, but think about it. Really go back and think about it. And then go look in games and you'll actually see this pattern. And you'll see how one player's decision ended up taking a whole team out of it. And before you know it, you've got a technical team, guys on the field, and so many of them taken out that the team is effectively taken out of the game. And if you want to succeed in this, you try to get it to start with a key player. Which leads me to one of my favorite examples out there, being Ronaldo. Ronaldo is one of the best players in the world, of course, as we know. Arguments out there, who is the best? I don't like arguing that part because I believe there's different types of quality players. And the ones who's being compared are not the same type of players, so it's not fair comparisons. All right, so let me just go into talking about him specifically. Firstly, start by saying, I admire Ronaldo's work rate and his extreme athleticism. Right. Now, his discipline in training has led him to get where he is. And he applies some other sports mental coaching things that are referred to, such as visualization, that I actually admire and or love. Right. However, when it comes to the vicious cycle of frustration, I have seen this cycle on him, starting from him influencing the team, taking to the wall of the Portuguese team being taken out of a game. Now, This happened there. I've also seen it at Real Madrid when he was there. I've not seen too many of his games at Juventus. Only see highlights from there, so it's difficult to judge whether the pattern has reoccurred while he was there as well. But I do know that the pattern was occurring less frequent as years passed by, and it's probably because those aspects has been covered in his personal guidance that he has from an actual personal coach off the field as well. Now, in this case scenario, I've seen him getting frustrated. One of the greatest examples, I've seen someone else out there have the opposite scenario. And in early cases, but in the last year or two, he's actually had frustrating incidents where this exact cycle kicked in, which is Lionel Messi. I've seen this kick in, and I've also seen this not kick in. And I think one of the biggest for me is probably at the 2018 World Cup. I really saw this kicking in for Messi. Now, yeah, it's a difficult stage, and disputably one of his last World Cup, and it was a World Cup that came at a time when he was probably at his peak, or at the time period that you expect him to be performing at his peak. Unfortunately, I don't think he's to blame for the outcome, but he would have been at the core of being frustrated for various different reasons. All right. Normally, he would have been a very calm player and would overcome this, and therefore would be used a lot in my next part of the cycle. Now, if I basically go look at this, in summary, your vicious cycle of frustration can be worsened until a player no longer has any control over his own actions. And the speed or progression of the cycle depends largely on the player's frame of mind, his opinions, his perceptions, and mental strength itself. Being able to cope with this, in other words, or not, also referred to as different coping mechanisms in previous presentations I've done. Now, if the player has very good mental strengths and or coping mechanisms, he or she will be able to cope more effectively with any of these situations. Now, I will elaborate a lot more on this. I guarantee you that. You might be asking, how do you change a player's perception? Well, you can. Yeah, how do you change that? Well, I'm not going to give it all away right now, but I am going to tell you that it's not that complicated. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight either, but it's possible to change it, especially if the player understands the essential need for it to change. And they start being informed about the other side, because we tend to see life from our own side and for how we grew up. But what if there's more to life than how we grew up, right? And how I perceived it. What if the other person that I perceived as a bad guy out there was actually not so bad? What if I was the bad guy in his view? And I didn't even know that, right? Now I want to defend myself and argue about his mistakes. Point is, if I had some wrongs in it as well, he had some wrongs in it, perhaps we both were bad. And I think that's a likelihood to be the case, because I don't believe there's anybody out there who's full of only good or full of only bad. So we will elaborate a lot more on this in our next video. And if you've joined us for the first time here, thank you very much for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed this. This video will be shorter than many of the others we've presented. And I thank you for your time. Please go ahead, subscribe to this channel, and at the same time, like this video as well for me, so I can actually know how you felt about it. And please do leave your comments if you've got any questions in this regard, so I can elaborate there, or questions more related to our next video as well that you are curious about. So I can actually refer to your questions as well. Thank you very much for your time, and that's it from me. I'm Coach Anton from Coach Anton P2R Limited. As you can see, here's the details in the event if you want to get in touch with us. See you next time. Have a great week. Hi. If you're still here at this time, that means you've probably watched the whole video. We surely appreciate it you've done so, and thank you very much from our side. Please go ahead and press the subscribe button at the bottom if you've not already done so that you can also get notifications as we load our next videos, especially the next one, which deals with the solutions to the very video you've just watched on the vicious cycle of frustration. Now, Note that this is part of a series that has an estimated 50 videos in it. That obviously is progressing as we continue with it, and we'll load at least one video per week. As for this video, if you enjoyed it, press the like button as well for me, and don't forget your comments. We would love to actually respond to that, so every one of you can also learn from our answers that we give out there and get more clarifications and more detail on aspects that you specifically want to know. For professional services, you can get in touch with us on the contact details that is also provided in this video. But this is from me. I'm Coach Anton from Coach Anton P2 Limited.